Hello to all Edge listeners, this is Stuart Harrison, UK Correspondent for the Thursday show, and the subject tonight is the biblical dust of the earth. I came across a website recently that contained a revelation revealing just exactly what the dust of the earth is, as mentioned in Genesis chapter 3 verses 14 and 15. These two verses tell us far more than we have ever paid attention to, and I believe they contain an important key that unlocks a great truth when it comes to the subject of aliens, demons, fallen angels and their kind. Genesis chapter 3 verses 14 and 15. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Now the website identified the dust of the earth, but did not explain the rest of it. Unfortunately, I did not bookmark the site where I found it, or make a note of any names involved to be able to give any credit. I have searched, but to no avail. These two verses have puzzled Bible readers for a very long time, and the chances of it being delicately disguised through the language are high. One reason I think this is a subject worth bringing attention to is that there are just so many people that believe there are good or even neutral so-called aliens. I say so-called aliens because we must remember that to them and their kind, it is us that are the aliens, as they were here first. They see mankind as the usurpers. There are also people that are clinging on to a hope for some kind of reconciliation between mankind and these serpentine aliens that we hear about. This talk will fill in more of the overall picture about just where we stand regards our relationship with them. I just want to start by saying that just because the human-looking types, like the Pleiadians and the Nordics, say they are keeping out of the way due to their policy of non-interference, it does not mean that they are not the biggest deceivers of them all. It was, after all, the Watchers of Enoch's time, Satan's 200 generals, that introduced to mankind everything that our Creator knew was not for our benefit. Big things like certain types of civilization, religion and warfare, right down to seemingly small things like the wearing of jewellery and the painting of faces to make people focus on the self. All of these things ultimately only benefit the ones that gave them to us. Now, does that sound like a friendly or even neutral race of benevolent aliens? Because to me it sounds like a species that's only interested in manipulating us into wars and a life structure that benefits only them and their elite. Mankind has been managed through these serpent bloodlines, families, ever since Babylon, and the only reason some call themselves royal is because they came from the ancient Sumerian serpentine gods that came down in great skyships. It's like the Stargate movie all over again. When people jump on the bandwagon of all wars are caused by religion, they are only partly right, because if it wasn't for the royal families and their feuds throughout history, how many wars do we think we might have really had? The aliens' religions and rituals have caused most of mankind to miss out on a true relationship with our Creator, all in order to deceive us into empowering them instead. False gods, like the tall grey alien called Jesus Sananda, the pale horseman of the apocalypse that poses as Christendom's Messiah, especially in angelic encounters. Todd Bentley's comes to mind. His angelic counter comes to mind because it's my guess that he failed to even test his visiting angel. So of course people like Mr. Bentley and the people that follow him are going to their doom. How about this Lord Maitreya, the black horseman of the apocalypse, that poses as the Arabic and New Age Messiah, that promises nothing but hatred and death as part of the alien depopulation program? Will the New Agers and the Shiite Muslims realise they are being played and manipulated into a war on their fellow man, or are they just too close to the trees to see the forest? Just as before, these so-called aliens will only have the courage to show up openly when their population is vastly reduced and therefore unable to resist any plans they have. In reality, the mankind-looking Nordics and Pleiadians are the biggest fascists of all. I say mankind-looking rather than human-looking because the word human in Welsh means serpent man. It is these nice guys that gave us religion, and especially the New Age movement, which I think is the ultimate Jimmy Jones fan club. They'll be the ones climbing rooftops in order to get closer to the UFOs and their so-called ascended masters, like in the movie Independence Day. Many religions are actively preparing for the return of these false gods, and they even have the same leader that they did back when they were called the Watchers, the fallen angel Samjaza. Many think Samjaza is Lucifer, even though when Samjaza shows up, it's often as a female, at least facially. Many have wondered why the Watchers apparently were able to keep their looks, and maybe they have, maybe they haven't. They are actually, well, they're certainly not beyond using shapeshifting or holographic technology to disguise themselves. Another surprisingly large group of people are those that do not like to believe that the aliens have one supreme leader. Some people just have a really hard time accepting that the once most favoured archangel, then called Lucifer, is the same great serpent, the same great dragon, or draconian, that led a third of the angels into rebellion, and still rules them today. One thing is guaranteed, and that is that he has not handed the reins of ultimate power over to a council of 13. Lucy is not equal to anyone or anything else in his kingdom. Of all the evil in this universe, only he still has access to the throne room of the Creator himself. There may indeed be internal squabbles between the varying factions due to competitiveness, but every faction has the same goal, which is to be the ones in power when he comes here to reign in person for the last 3.5 years of Great Tribulation. The people this subject should speak to most, though, are those people that have had a hard time accepting that every one of these serpent races actually eat people.